must say, I utterly adored the film.
Oh, thank you.
It's funny, it's sad, kind of all of those things. And obviously, you guys have done pretty well. Got a good reception at the Glasgow Film Festival in March. Picked up a couple of BAFTAs in April. What was that moment like, when you guys picked up with, those 2 BAFTAs?
The nominations. It was amazing, but it was also really the whole thing's been quite surreal because of the pandemic, I have to say. It was amazing. Getting those nominations was incredible. But we'd already, we'd been experiencing so much of this, the festivals, the Cannes selection from the very beginning, all of these kind of little, quite big successes through, at home, through the computer. And it was strange. It felt like it kind of wasn't entirely real. But we still kind of managed to find a way to celebrate, and got the champagne out and and all of that. But yeah, very special.
Your background is in Arabic and politics. You spent time studying in Syria. For you, is that really when the journey started? For you to make this film, and how did the idea kind of come about?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, so it's kind of. And a lot of this is sort of getting to that point where I had this sort of desire and passion to tell this story and to try and write a screenplay about this subject matter, and then kind of looking back and going, how did I get to this point? And I think that part of that is the time that I spent in Syria, living in Damascus, studying at Damascus University, and the friends that I made there, and then later on, working in refugee camps in southern Algeria with an NGO, working on a project there that was to do about identity, and how the label of being a refugee affects identity, and then just the sort of prevalence of the refugee crisis in the media, and really sort of noticing that we had, through kind of demonization of refugees and also through pitying of refugees, and looking at the subject as numbers and statistics, and feeling that there's a way to kind of hopefully humanize the refugee experience and try and kind of spotlight the issue through cinema in a different way.
Yeah, I definitely think you captured that in terms of humanizing the characters, and not just refugees. What I've found to be quite funny was the Scottish characters that we see. They're almost outcasts themselves in some respects.
Yeah, and I have to say that, like, it's interesting this, because part of the idea of shooting on on a remote Scottish island, a fictional remote Scottish island, kind of creatively and artistically, that quickly became a metaphor for purgatory, for the limbo that these guys are stuck in. And there was a kind of deliberate spread of nationalities as well. The locals on the island, from Danish and English and Scottish. It was kind of about more of a pan-European attitude towards the refugee crisis, rather than something that's specifically Scottish or specifically, from the islanders. Yeah, and then it's I guess it's sort of right. I think writing these sort of odd kind of outsider characters is is somehow something that came from the creative process that I'm kind of quite drawn to as well, I suppose, in writing those sorts of characters.
It almost seems natural for us Scots, especially when we travel and we've got the accent. I think that's quite funny. I must say, Amir, who plays Omar, such a great performance. What was the casting process like for him, and did he stand out right away?
Yeah, well, so I came across Amir a photo of him initially. So it was kind of his image that I was immediately drawn to, and kind of I could immediately just imagine him in the role. And I think, yeah, I went to bed that night and dreamt of him in the role of Omar. And then we did initial video audition, and he was just brilliant from the very beginning. He was fantastic. And then we brought him in to an in-person audition, and yeah, he was just, it ended up being a very easy decision to make.
A lot of the comedy in it is very, deadpan. What was it like, getting the cast on board and to be able to get that right and, kind of hit those, comedic notes?
I think it's a good question. It's a process. I think that a lot of that a lot of that time is spent in the screenwriting, but then when you hear those words performed out loud for the first time in the audition process, it can quickly become something else. And I think the whole film is kind of, it's walking a tightrope between humor and drama, and it's quite being quite precise to not sort of push it too far on either side. If you kind of push the humor too far, it's very difficult to then come back so you can pivot towards the drama. So I think I worked very closely with all of the actors, and it's through their kind of performances and kind of measuring the tone and kind of finding this, I suppose, particular style of deadpan performance and humor through them.
And was there much chance opportunity for the cast to improvise, or was it very much kind of by the script?
I have to say it was mostly by the script. It was mostly by the script. Yeah, there wasn't a huge amount of improvisation, but at the same time, it's a kind of like with acting, it's like these guys they did so much to bring these characters to life. So it's all of them kind of took absolute kind of ownership of their characters.
And what was the shoot like, being up in the Hebrides?
It was a nightmare. It was it was really difficult. It was really, really challenging. We were in a constant battle with the weather, with the elements. It just made it, really difficult. Every single day was a challenge to just kind of get the scenes and get the shots that we needed. But the locals were amazing, and we had them involved in the film, both kind of behind the scenes and on camera as extras in some of the smaller roles. Yeah. So locals were amazing, so supportive, and we wouldn't have been able to make the film without them.
There's this one really touching moment when Omar's speaking to his mum on the phone, getting at a recipe, for a Syrian dish. For yourself, when you're traveling and away from bonny Scotland, is there anything in particular that you miss that you can only get here?
Oh, good question. Good question. I mean, I've spent a lot of time living in the Basque Country in Spain, and I do get little food parcels of things that are quite uncommon there, like Marmite.
Right, okay.
And peanut butter as well, crunchy peanut butter. So things like that. I got to say, baked beans on toast with cheese. Love it.
And do you get iron brew over there?
You can't get iron brew over there. You can't get iron brew. I try not to. I really like iron brew, but I try not to drink that much of it.
Probably for the best. The film tackles a lot of serious issues, and then comes up and tackles the debate between Ross and Rachel and whether or not they were on a break. Where do you stand on that matter, and how surreal is it that that's still a thing 20 years after that episode aired?
Yeah, I think they were on a break. for sure, for sure. It's like, oh no, I mean, I don't mean that. I mean the opposite of that. No, I mean the opposite of that. No. It was too soon. It was too soon. Yeah, it was too soon. No, for sure, it was far too soon. But no, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've got cousins who are like 17 and 18, no, 17 and 20. And, you know, they love Friends. They watch it all the time. And so it's amazing how kind of like cross-generational it is, but also kind of how global it is. You know, no matter where you go in the world, you speak to anyone and they've seen Friends, and you turn it on in a hotel room or whatever, and it's there and it dubbed into a different language.
And just one final question, Ben, before you go. What is it that you're working on next that you're able to share with us?
I can't share much. I'm busy. I'm working. I'm writing. I'm going kind of back into the writing process, which is, you know, difficult in summer because it's actually been quite a good summer in Scotland, and you know, it's a very different energy as well. So it's a bit of an adjustment. So I'm spending a lot of time writing, but you know, I'm kind of continuing to be sort of interested in global issues and kind of big topics, and trying to find sort of human stories that kind of get to the heart of these big issues. And again, that's that kind of tonal balance of humor and drama.
Well, Ben, it's been great chatting with you. Thanks so much, and yeah, best luck in the movie's release.
Thank you. Really great talking to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey